Hey y'all, it's Becky with Quite Novel. It's been about 2 months since I last posted anything. I recorded a few things during this time period but ended up deleting it because I just wasn't feeling it. I know I said I would be back and present in 2020, but the beginning of the year actually hit hard. So I was sick again. That was my theme last year. This time it was a weird allergic reaction. And then at the end of January, right after I posted my last video, actually Poppy passed away suddenly. So I was dealing with that sudden devastating event for myself, because she's been through a lot with me over the last 7.5 years. But I'm now kind of ready to start getting back into things, start reading a lot. I figured April is a great month for that, so that's what we're going to get into. I have a lot of plans for April because, just like most of the world, I'm social distancing, self-isolating, trying to keep safe during the whole coronavirus. That way, because I have family members that have asthma. I have family members that are in the healthcare, that work in healthcare, and I just want to stay safe and make sure I don't give anything to them and they don't give anything to me. So I'm basically on my own and not having much interaction with them. So yeah, so in the meantime, because we finally don't have too much rain, I've been gardening and cleaning at my house, because if you didn't know, I just moved. Well, I just bought a house in November and moved right at Thanksgiving, and so now I'm kind of ready to get back into the swing of things and read, since I don't have to go to school. I'll have to do stuff, you know, every day for and be around for my students, but I have all this free time now. So my plans for April, if you didn't know, the OWLs Readathon is in April. It's hosted by BookRoast, and I'll link her video and everything down below. I did it last year, and I also sat for my newts. I did not finish my newts last year, but that's also beginning of a school year and started the whole house hunting process. But this year I plan on going for my OWLs for librarian. Shocking with the amount of books I have, but I figured that would be kind of fun since I am a language arts teacher. I love books, obviously, and I truly want to read a lot of my TBR this year. So I'm still keeping up. If you checked out my goals from the beginning of the year, I'm still keeping up with the alphabet challenge I'm doing. So some of the books this month will deal with G and H books. So I incorporated the ones I could in my OWLs, but I'm also planning on participating in the Creating & Co. Realm of Reading Readathon that's taking place April 13th through 19th, and I'll link that information down below too. It's my friend Paige's book club, and that's tied in with her planner shop, and so I'm going to hopefully overlap some of these books. I'll try. I know for sure one of the books for that readathon is not on my OWLs TBR. But anyways, let's get into the OWLs. So again, I'm a sit for my librarian. So for that, I need to take my OWLs for the Ancient Runes, Arithmecy, Defense Against the Dark Arts, History of Magic, and Transfiguration. So for that, it's really only 5 books. But since I'm not doing anything right now, because as of right now, we are out. We can't go to school until April 27th is when ours is going back, and we're assuming it's going to get extended again. So I am going to try and sit for all my OWLs, which is a total of 12 books. So on really good months, I do easily read 10 to 12 books. but we'll see how it is because March was kind of iffy for me. I didn't do as well, but that was part of, let me just lay around and be lazy during 2 weeks of straight stay in your house and be safe. So for Ancient Runes, the prompt is, get my list. The prompt is to have a heart on the cover or the title. So I plan on reading Love and Luck by Jenna Evan Welch. So it's been on my shelf for a while. It's one of the ones I got, I think, from Book Outlet a few years ago. But I love Ireland. I studied abroad in Ireland when I was in college. So I'm all about any cute Irish trip type of book. So anyways, this book is about Addie, who is going to Ireland for, I believe, her aunt's, yes, her aunt's destination wedding. And while there, her brother Ian kind of bothers her and is all about arguing and just the typical, I think, sibling rivalry thing that we see a lot of times. And while there, she actually discovers a book called Ireland for the Heartbroken in the little, I think, hotel library. Yes, the hotel library. And so that's when she decides to take and do the trip herself. And so she, along with her brother and an Irish guy, go and travel the countryside of Ireland, which I'm all about. I'm excited to see if there's any places in here I've been to, because when I lived over there, we did travel all over Ireland. And then a few years ago, a few friends and I went and we did Northern Ireland and stuff like that. So it's one of my favorite places in the entire world. So I'm excited to see how this is. Plus, it's just a cute, should be an easy contemporary to get through. Now, for the arithmancy, is you want to read outside your genre. So I typically stick with, which you guys know, fiction, contemporary romance. I do a little bit of fantasy, and that's gotten more and more. So I haven't read, I don't think, any nonfiction this year. So I've also had this on my shelf. I picked it up from my local bookstore a few years ago because it just looked interesting. But it's The Great Pearl Heist by Molly Crosby. She actually wrote The American Plague, which is about the yellow fever epidemic. And I also want to read that, especially now. I'm curious to see how, you know, what went on then versus kind of what we see today. But anyways, The Great Pearl Heist is all about the biggest heist in London, the most valuable necklace. So I'm curious to see, but it took place in 1913, and it was, what was stolen was a strand of pale pink pearls that was actually worth more than the Hope Diamond. I'm really interested to see, and it's not very long, and the font isn't too bad, but it's set up kind of like a journal with the different dates and stuff. So I'm excited. I think, yeah, okay, so I know I've had this on my shelf since 2015 because this was before it was even the bookstore it is now. So I need to get to it. This is why I'm trying to focus, but this is also going to fit into my G category for this month. Then for Defense Against the Dark Arts, it's a book that takes place on the sea or along the coast. So I plan on reading Susan Mallory's The Friends We Keep. I usually always go to Susan Mallory in like spring and summertime. I've read most of her like contemporary romance books, and this one takes place, I think it's in California. Most of hers are in California, but it's called the Mischief Bay novel because it takes place along Mischief Bay. So we got the coast there, but it's about 3 friends who have to go through like trouble with their life, marriage, all that stuff, and then kind of give it all they have before they lose it all. So I'm sure they're going to come together at the end, but I figured it's going to be a nice, easy book. I just finished another book that's kind of like this, and it was kind of nice and refreshing because it wasn't just focused on romance. It focused more on like the friendships and relationships we have with different women in our lives. Now, the next OWLs I'll sit for is History of Magic, and the prompt is a book that features witches or wizards. So I just finished the first book of Fallen Kingdoms in March. So I plan on reading Rebel Springs. It's the second book in the series. There's 6 books out, but there are witches and sorcerers in this book. It kind of, I don't want to give away too much, but Paige is the one that recommended it to me, but it's basically a young adult version of Game of Thrones. You have different ruling, 3 different countries, areas, kingdoms that are trying to overtake each other for different things, and the heirs of each are all being groomed in order to fulfill certain prophecies, I guess, or their destinies in here. And so I really loved it. If you are a Game of Thrones fan, you need something new, something that's not as heavy as all those books. The Fallen Kingdom series is amazing for that. So Rebel Springs will be for my witches and wizards. And then my final one is Transfiguration, which it includes shape-shifting. So I will be reading the 3rd book in the series, Gathering Darkness. So not only are there witches and sorcerers, but there is an old magical group that are called the Watchers, and they can shapeshift between kind of a human form and a hawk. So that is my shapeshifter. So I'm assuming it was in the first one pretty heavily, so I'm assuming it's in this one too. So those are my books for my librarian. Now, if I do get to all of them, then I have 6 more if I do the rest of my OWLs. So if I do the rest of them, and I'm hoping to, I plan on reading for, what is it? Oh, Astronomy. It's to read a book at night. So I figured what better right now, I'm a teacher, than to read The House at Pooh's Corner at night. So it's like a bedtime story. It's a really, really, really pretty edition. I believe I actually got it, and I love these illustrations, but I actually got it, I think, when I got it way before that other one, because this was the name of the bookstore, Davis Kids, before it became the Booksellers, and now it's novels. So I've had this book for a while, but it's all about, obviously, Pooh's adventures in the 100-Acre Woods and Christopher Robin. So figured that would be a perfect one to read. I've never read anything dealing with Pooh, so figured why not start now. So the next prompt is Care of Magical Creatures. It requires to read a book that has a creature with a beak on the cover. So I have a bird here. I'm planning on reading The Gravity of Birds by Tracy Guzman. It's all about this kind of reclusive artist who suddenly reveals this picture, this painting of 2 sisters that he has never revealed before. But he makes it a condition that the art professor and then the art authenticitator, I totally butcher that, must find the 2 sisters in order to reveal the painting to the world. But it turns out the sisters have disappeared, and through the journey of trying to find them, they discover their mysterious past and how some of them, just a lot of stuff kind of happens and lives intertwine, and it's like some unexpected turns, I guess. So it's got a lot of rave reviews and stuff, but I'm pretty curious because it's over like a 40-year time period from the time the painting was done to they want to unveil the portrait. So it seems interesting. So I think I got this at Book Outlet since it has the little dot on it. Now for the charms, to read a book with a white cover. So I'm probably completely losing it after already having all those books I already had, but the only white cover I have that I really have an interest in reading right now is Leanne Moriarty's Truly Madly Guilty, which is massive. So I think I'm completely losing it. But this is the last one of hers that I own that I haven't read. So I'll probably pick it up on audiobook because I've been doing pretty well with borrowing audiobooks from my library, because our library out where I live now is way better than in the city, which makes no sense. But anyways, this is about 6 adults, 3 kids, and it's a Leanne Moriarty book, so something happens, there's a mystery, and you gotta figure it out. And it's probably in a neighborhood. Yep, it's a neighborhood, like barbecue, and something goes down. That's all I really need to know, because her books, I really like not knowing going into it. But yeah, so I'm hoping to get to that. So for divination, I did the random number. The prompt is a random number generator for your TBR. So for this month, my focus was G and H books, and I had 36 on my TBR, and so I did this previously, but it came up with number 32. So that book is The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. This was a book I got back in high school and never read. It was one of those summer reading books, and my parents always allowed me to get all the books on the list because they were all about me reading anything I got my hands on. So that was the one kind of thing they allowed me to do. So this is a book that I know takes place in Chile. So it spans several generations of this one family during some of the political upheaval, I believe, in Chile. But I know it's one of those big epic classic books of the 20th century. So I'm excited to finally get to this. Then Herbology. It's a book that starts with the letter I. So I plan on reading is it Nujode? Age 10 and Divorce. This is all about a Muslim girl who had an arranged marriage when she was 10. And so it took place in 2008, and the guy she married was 3 times her age. So it discusses, she's super brave and discusses the abuse she had to deal with from her husband, and then the process to get free. And so, yeah, and it takes place in Yemen. But so she goes against her own customs and her own family, and became this inspiration to Muslim girls. So I'm really curious to see, because I think it's a story that before 2001 we wouldn't have heard much. So I'm really interested to see her words, especially my nephew's 10 right now, so I can't even imagine being that brave at that time and all of that. So for Muggle Studies, it's to read a contemporary. I plan on finally reading Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone, so another big one like Leanne Moriarty's. This one takes place in Alaska, and a POW from Vietnam, he moves his family to Alaska. So it's about that. That's kind of all I know. I do have the audio for this from my library, so it'll be the first one I probably start and then go into Truly Madly Deeply. But I've loved most of Kristen Hanna's books. It's just her earlier ones I haven't, so I'm excited to see what this one's like, because usually it's more of the contemporary romance that I've read from her. So I'm excited to see her historical aspect to it, because I still also need to read The Nightingale. And then the final one is Potions. So it's to read a book under 150 pages. So I plan on reading Archie Volume 1. Still haven't read it, even though I got it back in January. But I've been really curious to try and get into comics. I love the Archie comics growing up. That's why I always went to the grocery store with my mom, because I always could get one when we checked out. So I know for a fact I can kind of get this done. So this is kind of, a few of these are kind of the short freebies, but I think I kind of need that in order to accomplish my owls. So let me know down below if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are. If you're participating in the owls, which one are you going to try to go for? I hope you all are staying safe and be careful, because yeah, the coronavirus is kind of scary. So anyways, that's about it. I'll be back hopefully later this week with another video. And so in the meantime, I'm going to attempt, oh my goodness, these are heavy, to start working on all of these. So we'll see if I survive. I'm on Instagram more, so go over, talk to me. I'll try and do progress, like let you know how I'm doing through my Instagram stories. So yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.